She pinned me to the carpet, tail thrashing, eyes glowing gold as she growled, "Geralt, I can't hold back anymore. Claim me." And that was the moment I realized my shy fox girlfriend was gone, replaced by a dangerously affectionate mate in full season mode. Night City's neon glow bled through the apartment windows, soft pinks, warm ambers, flickers of passing hollow signs. It painted the room in a dreamy haze, the kind that made everything look softer, slower, like the world was letting out a long, exhausted sigh. Geralt had always thought of his place as quiet, predictable, a little lonely. But ever since Lyra, bright orange hair, fur-tipped ears, tail fluffier than any sane creature should have, had stepped into his life, the apartment had stopped behaving. Pillows migrated. Blankets mysteriously appeared over him when he fell asleep on the couch. His wardrobe had gained an alarming number of stolen hoodies that mysteriously smelled like citrus and wood smoke afterward. The world wasn't quiet anymore. And tonight, it wasn't predictable either. Because the moment Geralt walked in the door, grocery bag still in hand, Lyra practically tackled him to the floor with the force of a woman possessed. Her palms planted on his chest, her thighs straddled his hips. Her tail swept the air in frantic, excited arcs. And she smiled, wide, fangy, mischievous. Not shy, not hesitant, predatory in the most adorable way possible. Geralt didn't know it yet, but he had just stepped directly into the gravitational pull of vulpine mating season. And there was no escape. Geralt stared up at her, breathless. Not from fear, but from impact and the explosion of vibrant laughter bubbling out of her. Lyra wasn't usually like this. Normally she was timid about physical closeness. She kissed him. Yes. Soft, sweet things that left him dizzy for hours. But she always pulled away before things went further. Now she looked like she might physically glue herself to his torso. "Lyra," he said, sounding suspiciously like a man pinned beneath a very determined fox woman. "Something you want to talk about?" Her nose dipped down until it brushed his cheek. She inhaled deeply, a full-body shiver rolling through her. Then she sniffed his jaw, his collarbone, his shirt. Sniff, sniff, sniff. Geralt blinked. "Okay, so we're doing that today." She didn't answer with words. She answered with a delighted sound, a rumbling, purring trill that vibrated right through him. Her hands slid up his chest, fingers splaying like she was mapping every contour. He tried very, very hard not to react, because Lyra could smell emotions, and the last thing he needed was to give her encouragement when she was all ready. Her tail flopped directly over his shoulder and curled possessively around his arm. Okay. Encouragement was unnecessary. "Something smells good," she murmured, leaning dangerously close to his lips. "Yeah? What is it?" he asked, throat tightening. "You." She said it like an accusation, or a confession, or both. Geralt felt his sanity detaching from the situation, like a space capsule ejecting from a doomed station. Lyra was never bold. She was soft-spoken, bashful, easily flustered, which meant something was officially, spectacularly up. She sniffed him again, slow this time, savoring, and her pupils dilated until they were almost fully black. "Lyra," he cleared his throat. "Did you drink coffee again? You know what it does to your—" "Nope." She cut him off with a grin too sharp to be innocent. "Just you." She rocked her hips slightly, as if testing gravity. Geralt choked on air. "Okay, whoa, hold on, Lyra, you're acting kind of crazy?" She beamed. The exact same smile from the thumbnail-worthy moment where she had him on his back, tail flared in chaos behind her. Geralt swallowed. "I was going to say energetic." "Well," she said, leaning close enough that her breath warmed his chin, "you make me energetic." And then her expression faltered, just slightly, like she was fighting herself. That tiny flicker of vulnerability grabbed him harder than the way she was currently sitting on him. "Lyra," he murmured, softening. "Talk to me." Her ears twitched. She sat back a little, still on him, just less predatory pounce and more embarrassed fox trying not to combust. Her hands fidgeted on his shirt. "Okay," she whispered. "So this is going to sound dumb." "Nothing you say is dumb." "Geralt, seriously, it's dumb." He lifted a brow. "You literally tackled me 5 seconds ago. I think the bar's been lowered." She made a wounded fox noise. "Ha-hey." But she didn't get off him, didn't even try. She tucked a curl of hair behind her ear, a nervous tick. "So, Her gaze darted away. "It might be mating season." "Might be?" She wriggled, mortified, yet unable to stop rubbing her thighs against him like a cat marking a couch. "Okay, it is. Happy?" Geralt blinked. "Lyra, you could have told me." "No," she yelped, cheeks blazing. "It's embarrassing. It's like my whole body is wrapped in electric blankets and my brain keeps yelling, 'Snuggle him or die.' It's stupid." "It's not stupid," he said gently. "Yes, it is." Her tail smacked the floor dramatically. "I was doing so good at being normal, and then you walked in smelling like someone I want to drag into the bedroom and..." She slapped both hands over her face. "Ugh." Geralt couldn't help it. He laughed, softly, warmly. Lyra peeked through her fingers. Don't laugh. This is serious. I am suffering right now." Okay. He tried to sober up. "How can I help?" She froze, her hands slowly lowered. You want to help?" "Of course I do." Her pupils widened again, but this time not from instinct, alone. There was emotion behind it. Relief, want, something tender. "You're my boyfriend," Geralt continued. "If you're struggling, you tell me. That's how this works." "But you won't think I'm weird?" she whispered. "You're absolutely weird," he said, brushing a knuckle against her cheek. "But I like you weird." Her breath trembled. Her tail curled around his waist in a soft, instinctive gesture of affection. "Geralt," she murmured, "I really, really want you." He swallowed, hard. "Yeah, I figured. Is that okay?" Her voice was tiny, hopeful, terrified. He reached up, cupped her jaw, and pulled her down just enough that their foreheads touched. "Lyra," he said quietly, "I've wanted you from the moment you stole my hoodie and pretended you didn't." She squeaked, a high, squealing fox sound of mortification, but then melted, tail fluffing like a thrilled feather duster. "So," she whispered, "if I asked you to help me with the whole mating thing?" "I'd say yes," he murmured, "gladly." Her ears shot straight up. "You mean right now?" Geralt smiled slowly. "Maybe start by kissing me again." Lyra did not start with a kiss. She pounced, just like in the image, pressing him into the carpet, lips hovering inches above his, desire shimmering in her golden eyes. "Geralt," she breathed, "I'm your mate. Touch me." And just as their mouths met, warmth, breathless laughter, two shadows tangled in amber lamplight. And somewhere in the middle of the night, the world shifted for both of them. Morning crept in gently, warming the edges of the room. Geralt woke to the weight of a very satisfied foxwoman draped across his chest like a living, purring blanket. Lyra's tail was curled around his waist, utterly unwilling to let go, and her nose was buried against his throat as if she were claiming territory through sheer, stubborn cuddling. He brushed a hand through her messy copper hair. "Morning." A muffled groan answered him. Then a paw-like hand clutched his shirt tighter. "No, morning is illegal. Go away." He laughed softly. "Pretty demanding for someone who ambushed me last night." That got a reaction. Lyra bolted upright, ears high, cheeks blazing, then immediately flopped back onto him with a dramatic whine. "Don't remind me," she begged. "I was feral. You were adorable. I was feral." She covered her face with both hands. "Geralt, I climbed you like a jungle gym." "And?" he teased. "And I—" She stopped, tail twitching in wild embarrassment. "I might have asked you to, you know." He nudged her gently. "I liked being asked." She peeked out between her fingers. "You did?" "I did." Her ears slowly relaxed. Then she crawled higher on his torso, bracing her palms beside his head, studying him with soft, glowing eyes. "So, last night," she murmured. "You don't regret anything?" "Not a single thing." Her expression melted. Relief, affection, and some lingering mischief all tangled together. She lowered herself until her nose brushed his. "Good. Because I kind of want more." A spark of heat ran through him. "Already?" "I'm Volpine," she said defensively. "We imprint through, repetition." "Repetition?" "Lots of it." He couldn't help laughing, and that made her shove his shoulder. "Don't laugh. I'm being serious. If another fox smelled me right now, they'd know you're my mate." "Is that a problem?" "No," she said quickly. Then softer. "I like being yours." The words hit him harder than the pounce from last night. But before he could answer, she shifted, lowering her head to nuzzle his jaw in slow, lingering strokes. Her tail slid along his leg deliberately, enough to send a very clear message. Then she froze. "I, have to tell you something else." Her voice was tiny. "What's wrong?" "It's not wrong, it's just—" She twirled a curl around her finger nervously. "Mating season doesn't stop after one night." Geralt raised a brow. "Okay. And I'm still really, really into you." "Lyra," he said gently, touching her cheek, "you don't have to be embarrassed about wanting me." "But what if I'm too much?" she whispered. "Then I'll tell you. And so far, you're not too much at all." Her ears slowly lifted. "You mean it?" "I do." She leaned down then, slow, deliberate, her lips brushing his in a soft, lingering kiss that carried none of the frantic desperation from last night. This was tender, grateful, a promise. When she pulled back, she whispered, "Geralt, I want you again." He cupped the back of her neck. "Then come here." She kissed him, deeper this time, her tail curling behind her like a banner of giddy triumph as she guided him toward another breathless embrace. The details blurred into warmth and soft laughter as they melted together again. Afterward, tangled in blankets, Lyra lay half on top of him, chest rising and falling in slow, contented waves. "Geralt?" she murmured. "Yeah. I think I want this to be our life. You and me. Always." He kissed the top of her head. "I'd like that." Her tail wrapped around him again, this time not out of instinct, but choice. And somewhere beneath the quiet glow of morning, something deeper had settled between them, something steady, something real. The gentle rhythm of late morning filled the apartment, soft hum of city traffic, the low buzz of a holo ad playing somewhere in another unit, a sunbeam creeping across the sheets. Geralt stretched, only to discover his arm was firmly trapped under a sleeping fox woman who had no intention of releasing him. Lyra was sprawled across his chest like a warm, fluffy octopus, one leg over his hip, one arm across his ribs, her tail coiled around his thigh like a clingy serpent. And every few seconds, she made a little satisfied rumble in her sleep. Geralt brushed her hair back. "You planning to ever let me stand again?" Her ear twitched. Then she mumbled, "No." He chuckled. I need coffee. You need me. She said it half asleep, half possessive, fully adorable. He kissed her forehead. Pretty sure I can have both. No, she groaned dramatically. If you get up, I'll... Her brow scrunched, lips puckering as she tried to think while half dreaming. I'll cry. You won't cry. I will. Loudly. He shook with laughter, and finally she cracked an eye open, golden, gleaming, still heavy with warmth and affection. She shifted upward until her cheek rested against his collarbone. Geralt, she murmured, tracing lazy circles on his chest. I need to talk to you about something before I get too distracted. That's ominous. It is. She exhaled slowly. So, mating season has phases. Phases, he repeated, already bracing himself. Yes. The first phase is, her cheeks flushed. The phase where I climb you like a mad woman. I noticed. The second phase is nesting. He blinked. Nesting. She nodded and sat up suddenly. Hair wild, expression serious, as if she were announcing a tactical war plan. It means I will have uncontrollable urges to rearrange the apartment, to make it optimal for Fox family life. Geralt stared. Fox family? You know. Cozy spaces, soft dens, pillows everywhere, blankets, my mate within arm's reach at all times. So, basically what you already do. Her tail puffed indignantly. No, this is worse. You'll come home and your couch will be in the hallway and your bed will be under the table and I'll be sitting in a pillow fort demanding cuddles. He snorted. Honestly, sounds fun. She stopped. It does? Yeah, as long as you don't put the fridge on the balcony. She gasped. Oh my gosh, that's such a good idea. Lyra. Okay, fine. No balcony fridge. She slid down beside him, pressing close, her arm hooking over his waist like she couldn't bear even an inch of distance. Then her tone shifted, softer, more uncertain. There's another part, too, she whispered. During nesting, I get clingy. I've noticed you're already clingy. No, this is different. Her voice shook just a little. It's emotional clinginess. I'll need you. Really need you. If you leave for too long, I'll panic. If I can't smell you nearby, I'll get anxious. If you seem upset with me, it'll hurt. Geralt cupped her cheek gently. Lyra, you can tell me when you're struggling. That's what partners do. She swallowed. I know, but what if you think I'm too much? I don't. You say that now, but what if... Lyra, he tipped her chin up so their eyes met. I want to be with you, all of you, even the chaotic, pillow-hoarding, clingy parts. Her eyes shimmered. Her tail curled instinctively around him again. Geralt, you're going to make me fall harder. Good. The silence between them grew soft, warm, a gentle promise lingering in the air. Then, a sudden, mischievous smile curved her lips. Can I show you something? She asked. Should I be worried? Yes. He opened his mouth to ask what she meant, but Lyra had already bolted from the bed, barefoot, laughing, tail whipping behind her as she sprinted out the bedroom door. Geralt groaned and sat up. Lyra, what are you... He froze when he stepped into the living room. Pillows everywhere, blankets everywhere. His entire couch had been stripped bare and rebuilt into a massive, over-engineered den in the middle of the floor, complete with tunnels, plush chambers, and a central nest that looked suspiciously like it had been designed for two. Lyra stood in the middle of it, hands on her hips, grinning triumphantly. Phase 2, she declared. Welcome home. He stared. Then he laughed, really laughed. You did all this morning? In 10 minutes, she said proudly. Mating season efficiency. She held out her arms. Come here, mate. He stepped into the den, into her waiting embrace, and she wrapped around him like she belonged there. And deep down, he realized something. He liked belonging there, too. By midday, the nest had grown, not just expanded, multiplied. Geralt stepped out of the shower to discover Lyra dragging another armful of blankets across the apartment, determination blazing in her eyes, like she was preparing for a winter apocalypse. Lyra, how many nests do we need? All of them, she declared, dropping the blankets dramatically. What if you want to nap in the living room, or the kitchen, or the hallway? I have to prepare for every scenario. You think I'm going to nap in the hallway? I don't know what humans do. She snapped back, tail puffing with frantic energy. What if you faint from low blood sugar and collapse right next to the shoe rack? Do you want to wake up on hard tile? No. You want comfort. Geralt pinched the bridge of his nose. I'm starting to think mating season should come with a warning label. It does, she said proudly, fluffing a pillow. It's me. He crossed his arms, amused. You're enjoying this. Maybe, she admitted, cheeks warming. Then her eyes flicked to him, slow, appraising, needy in a way that sent a quiet thrum through the room. I like taking care of you, she murmured. And I like being close. He stepped toward her, brushing a stray curl from her forehead. I like that too. Her ears dipped, uncertainty flickering across her face. Really? I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. That small reassurance did something to her. She softened, like tension melting straight out of her bones. Her tail lowered from frantic to gently swaying, brushing his leg in a slow, affectionate arc. Then she leaned into him fully, arms sliding around his waist, pressing her cheek against his chest with a soft sound. Geralt, can we? She hesitated. Stay like this? For a while. He held her close. Yeah. For as long as you want. She let out the smallest breath of relief and simply clung to him, soaking in his warmth like it was sunlight. But then, her ears flicked, her nose twitched, her pupils dilated again, dark and hungry. And she looked up at him with a new, startlingly intense expression. I think I'm entering phase 3, she whispered. He raised a brow. Which one is that? She hesitated, cheeks going scarlet. The hyper-affection phase. Hyper-affection? How is that different from what you're doing now? Geralt. She swallowed. This is the phase where I want to, kiss you everywhere. His heart thudded. Everywhere. Everywhere, she repeated, voice dropping into something warm and sultry. She tugged lightly on his shirt, pulling him downward until their lips almost touched. But instead of kissing him, she pressed a trail of soft, lingering kisses down his jaw, slow and deliberate. Her hand slid under the hem of his shirt, fingertips gliding along his spine. He inhaled sharply. She smiled against his skin. You taste good. That's not a thing, he managed. It is now. Her tail wrapped around his thigh, pulling him closer, and she whispered directly into his ear, Geralt, I need you again. His pulse kicked, desire sparking, but before he could respond, she abruptly pulled back, flustered. Wait, sorry. I don't want you to think I'm just jumping you nonstop. My instincts are screaming and you smell really, really good and I'm trying to be respectful, but... He placed a fingertip gently on her lips. Lyra, he said softly, stop panicking. She blinked. You want me. I want you. We're both consenting adults, and we're together. His voice lowered. You don't have to hold back. Her breath caught in her throat, not in fear, but in relief so sharp it made her eyes shine. Really, she whispered. Really. Then she launched herself at him with zero hesitation, kissing him hard enough that he had to brace himself against the wall. Her hands tangled in his hair, her body molding to his like instinct had taken full command. She broke the kiss only long enough to murmur, "Bedroom, now." He didn't even get the chance to agree. She was already tugging him toward it, laughing breathlessly, tail flicking in wild anticipation. A blur of limbs, laughter, and flushed skin carried them across the room as she pulled him onto the bed, straddling him with a triumphant grin. "Geralt," she whispered, leaning close, "I want you in every part of my life, every day, every night." He cupped her hips. "You've got me." She kissed him again, slow, deep, tender, and hungry all at once, and the world dissolved into warmth as they tangled together. Afterward, resting in a heap of blankets, Lyra curled against his chest with a dreamy, exhausted smile. "Geralt, if you keep being this good to me," she murmured sleepily. He brushed her hair back. "Yeah? I'm going to end up marrying you." He froze. She didn't. She simply snuggled closer, perfectly content. And suddenly, the future didn't feel so far away at all. Geralt woke sometime past noon to the distinct sensation of being watched. Not just watched, studied. He cracked an eye open to find Lyra hovering above him, propped on her elbows, face inches from his, staring like he was a rare artifact she was deciding whether to worship or eat. "Morning?" he tried. Her eyes widened. "Oh, good. You're awake. I need to sniff you." He blinked. "That's new." "It's urgent," she insisted, already leaning down. Before he could say anything else, she pressed her nose to his neck and inhaled so deeply she practically melted onto him. "Oh, yes. That's good," she murmured. "Lyra, shh. Science." He covered his laugh with a groan. "This is science now." "Yes," she said, moving to his shoulder. "I am measuring your chemical signature, and your pheromones, and your everything. Everything. Everything," she repeated, voice muffled against his skin. Her tail curled around his leg, warm and soft and possessive, while she continued her slow, thorough assessment. The affection was intoxicating, borderline dangerous, and she didn't seem remotely aware of the effect it had on him. Then she paused, and her ears went rigid. "Geralt," she whispered. Something in her tone snapped his senses awake. "What's wrong?" She pulled back, pupils wide, breathing sharp. "My instincts just flipped. There's a shift, a big one." "What does that mean?" She swallowed. "It means I'm entering the peak of mating season." He propped himself up carefully. "Okay, what does the peak do?" "It makes everything worse." "Define worse." "I want you," she blurted out, cheeks flaming. "I want you so badly it feels like my brain is being microwaved." He opened his mouth, but she kept going, voice spiraling into frantic panic. "And it's not just physical wanting, it's emotional. Deep emotional. Like I want you in my den, and in my life, and in my future, and I want your hoodie forever. And if anyone looks at you, I will hiss." He blinked. "You hiss?" "Geralt, this is serious." Her tail puffed completely, a fuzzy explosion of panic. "Fox women get territorial during the peak. We get clingy, impulsive, needy, hyper-affectionate, like last night, but times 12. She gripped his shirt with both hands. "And you're human. I don't want to freak you out." He gently cupped her face. "You're not freaking me out." "You say that now," she whimpered. "But what if I do something stupid?" "Like what?" "Like bind myself to you permanently," she whispered. That hit him like a comet. He sat up fully. "Lyra." She lifted her gaze, fragile, shimmering, terrified of her own heart. "In Fox culture," she said quietly, if we mate during the peak, It's a bonding ritual. Instinctual, permanent, as in, I'd be yours, and you'd be mine. For life. Silence filled the room. Heavy, electric, trembling with something deeper than fear. Geralt breathed slowly. You think that's stupid? I think it's unfair to pressure a human into a lifelong bond because my biology is screaming, she said, voice cracking. I don't want you to feel trapped, or obligated, or stuck with me because I'm hormonal and insane. He took her hands. Lyra. Her ears twitched. I want to be with you. Not because of instinct, because of you. She stared. He continued, voice steady and warm. You pounce on me daily. You hoard my hoodies. You build nests like an enthusiastic raccoon. You sniff me like a detective dog, and you know what? What? She whispered. I wouldn't want any other life. Her breath stuttered, not fear, emotion. But then, another shift. A sudden sharp hitch in her posture, her tail curling tight. Geralt, she said, almost trembling. It's happening again. What is? The pull. Her voice was breathless. I want you again. Right now, I can't stop it. He moved closer, brushing her cheek. Then tell me what you need. She met his eyes with a mixture of desperation and devotion, so intense it made his chest tighten. I need you to hold me, she said softly. I need you close. I need... Her voice dropped lower. All of you. He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her in. She melted instantly, clinging to him like gravity itself depended on it. Geralt, she whispered against his neck, voice shaking. This feels like love, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say that yet. He kissed her hair. You're allowed. I am? Yes. She pulled back just enough to see his eyes. Then, Geralt, I think I'm... But instinct hit her mid-sentence. She surged forward, kissing him with such fierce emotion he nearly lost his balance. Her hands tangled in his hair, her tail wrapping tightly around his waist as she pushed him gently back onto the bed. Geralt, she breathed, lips brushing his. I want you to be the one I bind to. His pulse hammered. Her eyes glowed with instinct, yes, but also choice. Then I'm yours, he murmured. She made a soft, aching sound of happiness and pulled him into her arms, body trembling with need and affection. And as they held each other, the bond had begun, slow, warm, irreversible, and neither of them was afraid anymore. Geralt didn't know how much time had passed, minutes, hours, something in between. But the world was quiet when the haze finally broke. Quiet except for the rapid heartbeat pressed against his chest and the slow, breathy sounds of a foxwoman recovering from instinct-driven affection. Lyra lay draped over him, limp in the most satisfied, utterly done with life way possible. Her tail curled loosely around his leg, no longer frantic or twitching, just resting, content, warm, claiming him without urgency. She nuzzled his throat. Geralt? Yeah? Her voice came out small, soft, and unbelievably sincere. I think I love you. He froze. Not because he wasn't ready, but because she said it like she had cracked open her chest and handed him her heart. He tilted her chin up gently. Lyra, I love you too. Her eyes widened, shining gold in the filtered afternoon light. You do? Of course I do. Her tail fluffed. Not explosively, more like a shy puff of delighted disbelief. She buried her face in his neck again, muffling a tiny, overwhelmed squeak. But before he could say anything else, she stiffened. Geralt. Something in her tone made him tense. What's wrong? I smell different, she whispered. He blinked. Different how? She sniffed her wrist, then her stomach, then him, then her stomach again. Her ears slowly crept upward, then folded flat. Oh no. Lyra? She stood abruptly, wobbling slightly, because apparently post-instinct legs were unreliable. But she managed to stay upright. She placed a hand on her belly, eyes wide, pupils dilated but not in the usual mating season way. In a stunned, almost reverent voice, she whispered, "I think the bond worked." Geralt sat up. "Worked?" she swallowed. Humans aren't supposed to cross with vulpines easily. It's rare, almost impossible unless the bond is strong and our bodies sync. He blinked slowly. "Are you saying—" "Geralt," she whispered, staring at him like her soul had just stepped out of her body, "I think I'm pregnant." Silence poured over them like warm water. Then she burst into tears. Not sad tears, not overwhelmed tears, just raw, joyful, terrified, ecstatic foxwoman tears. Geralt shot up, grabbing her hands. "Lyra, hey, look at me. You okay?" She nodded rapidly, then shook her head, then nodded again. "I'm sorry," she laughed, half crying, half giddy. "I'm not upset. My instincts are, Geralt, I love you, and now I'm—" She pressed both hands over her mouth. "I can't believe it." He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight as her emotions spiraled through her. She clung back desperately, pressing her forehead to his, tail wrapping around him with trembling affection. Her voice cracked softly. "I didn't think a human and a foxwoman could make a family." Geralt cupped her cheek. "Looks like we're proving people wrong." She laughed through the tears. "That's your specialty." He brushed his thumb along her cheekbone. "How do you feel?" "Like my entire life is changing and I'm happy, scared, really happy, really scared." She swallowed. "Are you okay with this?" "Lyra," he said gently, "I meant it when I said I wanted a future with you. If that future includes a family, then I'm all in." Her breath wavered. "You're not saying that just because I'm crying and hormonal?" He smiled. "I'm saying it because I'm sure." Something inside her melted. Completely. Thoroughly. She crashed into him with a sudden hug, practically tackling him all over again. But softer this time. No instinct, no desperation. Just pure joy. "Geralt, I want to marry you," she whispered into his chest. "I wanted it before. But now, I really want it." He held her close. "Then we'll get married." Her tail curled tight around his waist. "Really? Really?" She pulled back enough to kiss him. Slow, emotional, trembling with happiness. Then, her ears twitched, her eyes widened. She looked down at her belly again, stunned all over. "Oh, my stars," she whispered. "I'm going to be a mom." Geralt brushed her hair back. "Yeah, you are. And you're going to be a dad," she added, looking up at him like she was seeing him in a completely new light. "Well," he said with a soft smile, "we're definitely in it together." She leaned into him, letting her forehead rest against his. The chaos of mating season, the emotional whirlwind, the bond they'd formed, it all settled into something deeper, something stable, something like the beginning of their life. She exhaled slowly, a warm, trembling smile spreading across her face. "Geralt," she whispered, "I don't want this moment to end." "It doesn't have to." And as he wrapped his arms around her, holding both her and the tiny future beginning inside her, she believed him. The world outside kept moving, cars humming past the window, distant chatter from neighboring apartments. But inside their little den of blankets and borrowed hoodies, everything stood still. Lyra sat on the edge of the bed, hands clasped protectively over her belly, staring at nothing and everything at once. Her tail swayed in slow, thoughtful arcs, softer now, calmer, like the storm inside her had finally eased. Geralt dressed quietly, giving her space. But he kept glancing over. She wasn't distressed. She wasn't panicking. She was simply feeling everything. When he finished pulling on his shirt, he walked back and knelt in front of her. "Talk to me," he said softly. She blinked out of her trance, golden eyes focusing on him gradually. "I keep thinking this is a dream. Like any second I'll wake up in my old apartment, alone, and none of this will be real." He took her hands. "It feels real to me." Her voice trembled. "Geralt, you just agreed to a whole life with me. A family, marriage, all of it. That's a lot." "It is," he said honestly, "but it's what I want." Her ears lowered shyly. "I've never had anyone stay before." His heart clenched. "I'm staying." She looked down at their hands, tracing her thumb over his knuckles like she was memorizing the shape of him. "I'm still scared." "That's okay," he murmured. "I'll be scared with you." Her breath hitched, not in a scripted romantic way, but in a real, vulnerable way that made her chest rise and fall unevenly. Then she slid off the bed and into his arms, pressing herself against him like the warmth anchoring her to the world. "Geralt, promise me something? Anything. If something goes wrong, if I get overwhelmed or weird or emotional or too foxy, you won't think I'm broken?" "Lyra?" He tilted her chin up. "You're not broken. You're brave. And you're mine." A soft, shaky sound escaped her, somewhere between laughter and a relieved sob. She wrapped her arms around his neck, holding him tighter than she ever had. "I love you," she whispered again. "I thought maybe I shouldn't say it too much or it would lose meaning." He kissed her forehead. "It won't. Say it as much as you want." "I love you," she murmured. "I love you," she repeated, breath warm against his skin. "I love you," she said one more time, voice small and earnest. And each time, something inside him settled deeper. When she finally pulled away, her eyes were glowing, not with instinct, but with something soft and steady. "Geralt, I want to do something." He raised a brow. "Should I be nervous?" "A little," she admitted. She stepped back, took a breath, then dropped to one knee. Geralt froze. Lyra held his hand carefully, reverently, her tail curling around her own ankle in a knot of nervous excitement. "Geralt," she said, voice trembling but determined. "Humans propose, right? It's tradition?" He felt his heart climb into his throat. "That's one way to do it." "Well," she inhaled shakily, "I want to do it too, before my instincts get any ideas about beating me to it." He laughed softly. "Okay, I'm listening." She swallowed. "Geralt, my mate, the father of my kids." She winced. "Too soon?" He shook his head. "Keep going." Her shoulders relaxed. "I want to build a life with you," she said. "Not just because we bonded, not just because of instinct, but because you make me feel safe, seen, loved, and I want to spend every day showing you that love back." She took another breath. "So, will you marry me?" Geralt cupped her cheeks, lifting her face toward his. "Yes," he said simply. 1,000 times, yes." Her ears shot straight up. "Really? Really?" She launched herself upward, tackling him onto the blanket nest in a flurry of joy, tail wagging wildly as she kissed his cheeks, his nose, anywhere she could reach without coherent coordination. "We're getting married," she squealed. He laughed, holding her tight. "Yeah, we are. And we're having kids." "Also true. And you're stuck with me forever." He kissed her back. Wouldn't want anything else. She stopped then, just long enough to rest her forehead against his, breathing him in with a soft, reverent sigh. "Geralt," she said quietly, "I'm happy. I know." he whispered. Me too. She curled around him, warm, safe, glowing with the kind of joy that filled the whole room, and the future stretched out before them with the steady certainty of a promise already kept. Everything had changed, and everything felt right. The next morning arrived with a kind of peace neither of them had ever felt before. Sunlight filtered through the curtains in soft golden bands, warming the nest they'd fallen asleep in. Lyra woke first, stirring gently, stretching like a cat, her hair a radiant mess around her shoulders. For once, she didn't immediately cling to him or sniff him or tackle him. She simply watched him sleep, her hand resting lightly on his chest. A quiet smile softened her whole face. Geralt blinked awake to find her gazing at him with a look so warm it could melt brick. "A morning," he murmured. Her tail curled lazily around his leg, not frantic like before, just affectionate, anchoring. "Morning, future husband." He groaned, rubbing his eyes. "You're never going to say that normally, are you?" "Nope," she said, unapologetically proud. "You said yes. That means I get to call you whatever I want." He chuckled. "Within reason. No promises." She leaned over him, brushing a soft kiss against his forehead. Another on his cheek, the last one she placed on his lips. Slow and gentle, not hungry or instinct-driven, just adoring. "So," he murmured when she pulled back, "what does a just-engaged foxwoman do on a morning like this?" She immediately brightened. "We nest." He stared. Again. "Nesting never stops," she said confidently as she rolled off him and stood, wobbly but determined. "Especially not when I'm expecting." He sat up. "Right, we should talk about that. Doctor visits, nutrition, whether we need anything for—" She marched back over, placed a finger on his lips, and said, "Geralt, first we eat breakfast, then we panic responsibly." He laughed. "Deal." Breakfast turned out to be a hilarious adventure in itself. Lyra insisted on making it, which resulted in eggs cooked in a pan she forgot to turn on, toast that somehow landed butter side down on the ceiling, and a triumphant declaration that foxes evolved for hunting, not breakfasting. Geralt stepped in before the kitchen caught fire, guiding her hands with gentle patience. She flushed every time he touched her, looking down at her belly as if she still couldn't believe what was happening. While they ate, she kept stealing glances at him, soft, shy ones. At one point, she set down her fork and whispered, "Geralt, you're really okay with being a dad?" He reached across the table and threaded his fingers through hers. "I've never been more sure of anything." Her ears lowered in a quiet wave of emotion. "Okay. Then I'm okay too." They finished breakfast, cleaned up together, and wandered into the living room, where the great blanket nest still dominated the space, like a creature that had claimed the apartment. Geralt raised a brow. "You know this isn't staying forever, right?" Lyra wrapped her arms around his waist from behind, resting her cheek on his back. "It's staying until the kits are at least 20. He laughed, turning to kiss the top of her head. "Speaking of kits, how are you feeling? Anything different?" She pressed a thoughtful hand to her belly. "Honestly, calm. My instincts feel quieter. Still warm, still protective, but not overwhelming anymore. Like my body isn't in fight or flirt mode. More like prepare mode. Is that good?" "It's perfect," she said, smiling up at him. "It means the peak is ending, and the nesting phase becomes less chaotic and more focused on family." "Focused how?" he asked suspiciously. "That depends," she said, stepping in closer, "on how much space you're willing to donate to Fox Architecture." He groaned. "Lyra, no. Lyra, yes." But then she softened, leaning her forehead against his chest. Geralt, I'm excited. Scared, but excited. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her carefully. I'm right here. I know, she whispered, and it feels so good to say that and believe it. They stayed like that for a long moment, just breathing, sharing warmth, listening to the quiet hum of their new life forming around them. Eventually she pulled back, her expression shifting into something tender and hesitant. Can I tell you something? She asked. Always. I thought mating season would be the hardest time for us, she admitted, like it might push you away, that you'd get tired of my clinginess or my instincts or my weird habits. Geralt brushed his thumb along her cheek. None of that pushed me away. I know, she said softly. And that's what made me fall in love with you, Geralt. You never tried to change me. You just stayed, even when I was chaotic. He smiled gently. I like your chaos. She laughed, a small, bright sound that filled the room. Good, because you're marrying into it. He leaned down, pressing a kiss to her lips. Slow, steady, sealing the quiet promise they were still learning how to hold. When they parted, she whispered, I can't wait for what comes next. He looked at her glowing eyes, her soft smile, her tail curling around his leg, and believed her. And for the first time since the whirlwind began, the future didn't feel overwhelming. It felt like a home they were about to build together. The rest of the day unfolded in gentle waves. No chaos, no tackling, no frantic instincts driving her. Just Lyra, soft, affectionate, glowing with a quiet joy as she moved through the apartment like she was rediscovering everything for the first time. She perched on the couch while Geralt filled out a virtual appointment form for a hybrid species prenatal specialist. Her chin rested on his shoulder, her tail looped around his waist, unhurried and warm. So, he said, tapping in the last info, first checkup is next Friday. She inhaled sharply. A real doctor. They'll confirm it, officially. He kissed the side of her head. Yeah, and whatever they say, we handle it together. Her ears twitched, touched, hopeful. Together. They went for a short walk around the block later, hand in hand. The city buzzed around them, but Lyra stayed close, rubbing her cheek against his arm occasionally like a fox marking something precious. People stared, some curious, some smiling, but she didn't seem to care. Her steps were lighter. At one point, she tugged him to a stop in front of a shop window full of children's toys. Something soft and wistful crossed her expression. Geralt, do you think our kits would look like me? Or you, or both? Or, oh stars, what if they're born with your eyebrows and my tail? What if they have my ears and your smile? What if... He laughed and pulled her closer. Whatever they look like, they're going to be adorable. She bit her lip, eyes shimmering. You really think so? I know so, he said. Look at their parents. Her cheeks flushed a warm pink. They kept walking, but her fingers tightened around his with new intensity. Not fear, but anticipation. When they returned home, the apartment felt different. Not because of the nest, though it still dominated the living room like a fluffy ecosystem, but because the air itself felt settled. Like the tension of mating season had finally exhaled. Lyra sat on the edge of the nest, legs folded beneath her, hands resting gently over her stomach. Geralt joined her, sitting close enough that their shoulders touched. She leaned against him softly. Geralt? Yeah? Can I tell you one more thing? He nudged her playfully. You can tell me 100. She took a breath. My instincts, they're mostly quiet now, but there's still one part whispering in my head. He turned to look at her. What's it saying? She reached out and took his hand, guiding it to her belly with reverence. It's saying, "This is just the beginning." Silence settled, warm, full, profound. He squeezed her hand. "Yeah, I feel that too." She lifted her gaze to him, eyes bright with the glow of a future she could finally imagine without fear. "I want to plan our wedding soon," she said shyly. "I want to have a small ceremony, maybe, or big, or both. Or, okay, I have no idea what I want yet. We'll figure it out together," he said. "And I want to decorate a nursery." "We'll do that too. And pick out names," he smiled. "Any ideas?" She suddenly looked scandalized. "Geralt, I have had ideas since our second date." He burst out laughing. "Of course you have." She moved closer, curled against him, tail wrapping around his leg like a soft ring. "Geralt, I'm not scared anymore," she whispered. "I'm excited, really excited." He rested his cheek on her head. "Me too." They stayed like that for a long while, quiet, intertwined, breathing in sync. Outside the window, the city glowed as dusk settled across the rooftops. A gentle wind rattled the balcony plants. Somewhere in the distance, a street musician played something soft and hopeful. Lyra closed her eyes. "I like the sound of our future," she whispered. "Yeah?" he asked. "It sounds warm," she murmured, "and bright and alive and—" She touched her stomach again, smiling. "Multiply, adorable." He barked a laugh. That's one word for it. A comfortable silence stretched between them, one that didn't need filling, one that promised time, growth, a life bigger than either of them had expected. Then Lyra whispered, almost to herself, "I can't wait to meet them." Geralt took her hand in both of his. "They're going to love you." She leaned into him. "They'll love you more." "No chance." "We'll see about that." A playful nudge, a quiet laugh, a shared future blooming, soft and unstoppable. The mating season had started everything. But what came next? Marriage, family, a life built from warmth and ridiculous blanket nests, would be something entirely theirs. And as the two of them curled into the nest together, watching the lights outside brighten against the evening sky, it felt like the world was opening, wide, soft, and bright. A beginning, not an ending. A family, not a phase. A future, not a fantasy. And somewhere deep inside Lyra's heart, steady, warm, hopeful, she whispered one last promise to herself. This is home. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe for more warm, romantic sci-fi tales every day.